Bolts Nation, what's going on? It is the Bolts Block Party version 2.0. I am your co-host, Greg Wolf, a.k.a. Wolfie. Joining me, of course, is Braydon Coburn, Kobe, and I'm excited to be taking the helms from the great Seth Kushner, who has made his way over to Los Angeles. So I thank you guys for having me step in and take the helms here on the Bolts Block Party. So, Kobe, why don't you introduce our first official guest with Kobe and Wolfie era, who's in the house with us here this afternoon.
Well, first off, Wolfie, thank you so much. I'm really excited that we're doing this together.
Yes, sir.
I think we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Loving it already.
It's gonna be great. But our first guest, Mark Lambert, strength and conditioning coach for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And,
is that the official title, or is it?
There's a different title, but that's
we need to know.
I know him as Mark Lambert, my buddy. You know,
is the official title Director of High Performance and Strength?
Yeah, that's.
What is the difference between that and a strength and conditioning coach?
It's usually so the Director of High Performance. If you take any Olympic committee, not Olympic committee, but an Olympic development program.
Yep.
There's the performance development, high performance, and then there are the strength coaches underneath, and but you're talking about an Olympic program that has a lot of people in it, a lot of moving parts, a lot of different sports.
Gotcha.
So obviously the personnel is much. There's a lot more people. So here, like a lot of teams are doing that in pro sports. There's a high performance director, and then there's strength coaches, and then whoever's underneath, sometimes a dietitian, nutritionist, whatever it is, on the performance side. Obviously, we don't have the budget, nor do we have, enough athletes to have all these people. So,
Gotcha.
So I have both titles.
Okay, so you're both.
I'm both.
You're wearing many hats.
Oh, many hats. Yeah.
10 years now with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
This is number 12.
12 years with the Lightning. 20 plus years in the industry.
Yeah, started training my first professional athlete, actually in '96. It was Darcy Tucker who played for the Wolves.
I remember.
Yeah, long
Is that
time
where
ago.
your start? I mean, where was your how did you get into the strength and conditioning world? Like, what's your journey been like to get to this point?
So I was a hockey player. I'm from Montreal.
Okay.
And I was a hockey player, not a very good one. No, I wasn't. I was, small, weak, slow, and not talented.
Is that what the coaches told you, or is that what you told
No, that's what I know. And that's not a great combination for anything.
Okay.
So
the scouts weren't knocking down the door.
Oh, God. No, I was talking like them. And nothing was happening.
Yeah.
So I remember in '89, actually, I'm 17, and I try out for my college team, and I don't make it. There were 80 guys at camp, but I still don't make it, and not even close.
Okay.
So, and at the time, I was living with 3 football players.
Okay.
Who were big into training, obviously, and they said, "Well, you're way too small." I was 150 pounds, 155 pounds, and they said, "For the style of play you have, you need to bulk up." And so so I started training. I'd never done that before, so I started training a little bit, and I started liking it. And I saw that my performance on the ice was. I played for a midget double C team,
Sure.
and I noticed I was getting obviously stronger, a little bit faster, and I kept training. And I remember in '92, the summer of '92, I trained a lot, trained very hard, and I gained like 18 pounds. I was up to 193 at the end of the summer.
Okay.
And I had no clue what I was doing in the gym. I was just doing the same thing. Yeah, 6 days a week, 2.5 hours a day. I had nothing else to do. So I was at the end of the summer, I was obviously much bigger.
Sure.
And I had one more year eligible to play junior A.
Okay.
So I went to try out, and I was, obviously I had a new body. And like I said, not a very good player.
Sure.
But my game had stepped
Elevated.
up substantially from who I was before to a little bit higher. And I had no clue what I was doing in the gym. And I was going into kinesiology at the time. And I thought, wow, what if I knew what I was doing in the gym?
Okay.
And I took someone who actually had talent.
Sure.
I could possibly help them. Not knowing that strength and conditioning was a field. I didn't even know that a strength coach existed. I didn't know that, so I was going to invent that. So I invented it all. Yeah,
Right.
no, but that's the mindset I had, and so I started studying strength training, and I was in the right program. Eventually, did my master's on skating speed, because I always thought that skating speed was the limiting factor. If that makes any sense on the ice. And keep in mind, this is mid '90s, so where players were much bigger.
Right. Different game back then.
Yeah, the evolution of the game has been.
For sure.
It's gone from the biggest guy was 6 foot,
right,
to all of a sudden in the 90s, that kind of like that dead puck era. There was just huge guys. Like you weren't getting drafted unless you were 6'4",
right,
like 230, 240,
right. Massive.
And now we see this different progression of where the game is going. Right, you got guys like Johnny Gaudreau,
right,
who is probably legitimately 5'6".
I mean, Pointer's a small
Pointer's a small guy too, but these
around.
guys are giants in the game. They're stars of the game. So that progression has changed.
Exactly.
But the part that hasn't changed, it has changed. The strength and conditioning part has changed, but it's maybe evolved to involve different parts.
Sure. Well, okay. So to give you an example, I came in 2011.
Okay.
And the average player in the NHL was 6'1", 205.
Okay.
Okay. That's the average player in the NHL.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, the average player was 6'1", 198. That's a huge difference. In 10 years, you're talking about 7 pounds per player.
Right.
It's a huge,
massive.
It's a huge difference. And if you look at the game, the speed is just so much faster. I remember in 2011 watching the game and just being able to follow the puck, not a problem. And now it's like, whoa, you're going fast, and this is on TV.
Right, right.
So
in real life, in real time.
So there's a big difference in body shape and body size, and the way we train. We don't really train for. It depends who again, but it depends on the age of the athlete. But you don't really train for muscle mass anymore, especially like once an athlete is in his man's body, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
We don't push for more. I don't anyway. Push for more weight.
Okay.
I push for strength, and basically you're essentially training a race car. So you want to take you want to take the weight off the car,
right?
But give it more power and more speed. Essentially, that's
a great analogy.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So keep going back to where where you were getting into this, studying this.
Right. So and then I did my master's degree on speed, like I said, and this is a funny story. So a good friend of mine who I grew up with, went to high school together, gets a job. We both graduate in '95 from our degree. Well, my degree, he graduates from the RCMP.
Okay.
All right, and he gets posted in Alberta, and he says, "Come and see me in the summertime." I got to work.
Right.
I'm a student. I'm going into my master's at the time, and he says, "No, come." And he sends me. There's no email.
Right.
At the time,
like
all right.
A letter.
He sends me a letter.
Right.
He says, "Look, this is a pamphlet of a hockey school. He's in what's the town? Alberta.
Alberta, yeah.
Alberta.
Famous Alberta. That's the birthplace of Nickelback.
Absolutely.
The great Canadian band Nickelback.
Absolutely. And his wife now, funny story, his wife now was Chad Kruger's high school sweetheart.
Oh, wow. There's the tie.
So there you go.
Comes together.
6 degrees.
So he sends me this pamphlet, and he says, "Come, there's a hockey school, and they're looking for an off-ice guy." At the time, that's what they called him, an off-ice guy. He said, "You could be the off-ice guy." Yeah. All right. So I look at the pamphlet, but it's only a 2-week thing. So I have a job, and I flip the pamphlet over, and I see the invited coaches, and I see Darcy Tucker, Fredericton Canadians.
Okay.
I'm coming.
Okay.
So that was my mark. So I took my car, drove across country. I went to his house, this and that, and then we go to the gym first day, and there is Darcy Tucker training.
Yeah.
And okay, I know what I have to do. Right. I don't really know, but so we start training, and then Darcy comes over. He says, "You guys look like you know what you're doing. Can you train me?"
That's it.
Done.
That was it.
That was it.
Wow.
So worked there for a couple of weeks, kept working with Darcy, and then that's how it started. That was my start anyway in athletes, and then I worked with Darcy the following summer.
Okay.
And after that, guys like Peter Worrell, who played for the Panthers, Jason Doig, and Pat Brisson, the agent Pat Brisson, he sends me a lot of play. He has, since '99, him and I have been.
So you were doing a lot of the training for individual players, not necessarily for a team, so to speak.
So at the time, that wasn't a thing.
Right.
Like I said, I invented all this.
Yeah,
so,
you got that.
No, but it wasn't a big thing. Like the first strength coach I remember was in I believe it was 97 that I remember.
Okay.
There probably were before, but the first one I remember was in 97, which is my year 2 with Darcy. And in '97, a friend of mine, I had nothing to do. I was doing my master's, but I had a lot of free time. And he says, hey, how about you call a buddy of mine? He's a coach at a university, at McGill University in Montreal. I said, I'll give him a call. So I went to meet him, and he says, it's not a thing, right? So he says, I have no budget, really, not much money. He says, I'll give you $400 for the season. All right, no problem. So whatever. It's not about the money. It's about getting experience, and it's about working. So I work with them. So this was Marty Raymond.
Okay.
His assistant was Guy Boucher.
Great.
All right. So this was in 97, 98, 98, 99. And then Guy Boucher went on to work in midget AAA, hired me, and then, bam, in 2011, they called me back.
And here you are.
It was that quick.
Wow.
But yeah, it took a few years, and then, they went up and they said, hey, we need to make a change, and are you interested? So, yeah.
So what is your, you could say daily grind, with our Tampa Bay Lightning players? I mean, what's like an average day for you is it a game day? Is it like days like today where we have practices and you're helping these guys off the ice? Like, what's a typical day for you with the team?
So that's a good question, because every day's different.
Okay.
So a practice day like today, we show up in the morning. Practice day like today is a little different because we had a game last night.
Right.
So, players are tired. They usually didn't have a great night's sleep. Ask Kobe, you guys don't sleep well. He usually...
Yeah, me and Wolfie were talking about it
that
a little bit earlier about, the guys are playing a 4:30 game tomorrow, and about how game time changes what the preparation is going to look like, not just from the player standpoint, but from a conditioning standpoint and from sleep and what you eat even before for the preparation for the game.
Right, the timing of it.
The timing. And when I was playing, the last meal I would eat would be around 1 o'clock.
For a 7 o'clock game.
For a 7 o'clock game.
Right.
So 1 in the afternoon.
1 in the
Gotcha.
afternoon.
Okay.
And then maybe I would have a little bit of like some berries and some oatmeal
Okay.
before the game
Fuel.
at like 4 o'clock.
Okay.
But not a big bowl, a small bowl.
Sure.
And, that'll change for some guys, but that basic timing is kind of the staple for most guys that I've played with.
Right.
And I think it still is today.
Yeah, you can't cheat timing. You need to get the carbohydrates into the muscles, which is basically your gas tank.
Sure.
Right. And you need slower carbs about 6 hours before, and you need those same slower carbs 3 hours before, but obviously in different quantity.
Right.
Sure. So that's yeah. So on a game like tomorrow, guys should eat lunch around 10:30, and then another snack, as you were saying, around 1:30. That's the way it is. So we played last night.
Yep.
Today we show up in the morning. Guys are tired. They come to the gym. On a day like today, I mainly work with the injured and certain guys who feel up to it to train a little bit.
Okay.
But they'll train especially power for the game tomorrow. So it's all about preparing tomorrow's game or the next game.
Gotcha.
Anyway. So tomorrow's an earlier game. You show up around noon, and you show up for the game basically tomorrow. But on a day like yesterday where we played 7 o'clock, show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, have breakfast. I personally do. Me and especially our manual therapist, Poppy Christian Rivas, we do a lot of learning. We learn a lot. So every day we set aside some time, 1 to 2 hours of learning. So from 8 to 9, if I can, if I have nothing else to do,
Sure.
I'll learn. I'll pop in a course or I start reading.
Okay.
And then guys will start coming in. You work with those who want to prepare or who need to prepare for the morning skate, because our morning skate's at 10:30.
Okay.
And then after the morning skate, they come back, and then a lot of them do a nervous system lift. So basically we'll lift to prepare the nervous system for the game at night.
How do you do that?
Well, there's certain things you can do. You either lift very heavy. And
Heavy weights. Got it. Okay.
Obviously in very small doses. That's important. Small volume.
Gotcha.
Or very, very fast. So depending on how they feel, depending on what we did the previous game, we mix that up.
Okay.
And it alters though too, right? Because different guys have different needs. What Hetty plays.
Right.
He's going out there playing 26 nights a minute.
Right.
Or 26 minutes a night.
Right.
Sorry. And then you have other guys that their energy.
Well, they play fewer
requirements
minutes.
are different. So you really have to be able to craft around kind of what's going on, right? And I know from working with you and the guys that it's a long season. There's
Right.
things that happen. It's 82 car accidents.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
it's not 82 games. It's 82 car accidents.
Right.
So you have different injuries. But just because you might have something, your shoulder's bugging you, doesn't mean your legs don't work. And you still need to get that conditioning out of your legs. And Mark and the team, they do such a great job of crafting different things, and it takes a lot of creativity to be able to do that.
Sure.
And I think that probably takes a lot of your guys' time, right?
The plan. So you'll make a plan.
Right.
So for example, I have a player, we plan, he has 2 post-game lifts a week, especially for a certain problem he has. And then he does the team lifts on top of that. And he'll lift in between games to prepare like I said, to prepare his body for it. So he lifts, let's call it 3 times a week on average.
Got it.
Sometimes 4, sometimes 2, depending on road trips as well. That's tougher. But if he's supposed to do a certain exercise after a game, but he takes a puck to the knee, or he takes a puck to the ankle,
Right.
that whole plan
Change.
you got to change it, because he may still feel that in 2 days, which
Right.
is another game.
So that poses more challenges for you guys.
Exactly. So sometimes when you prepare the team lifts, which are unfortunately 80% of our, I wouldn't say 80%, but 50% of our team lifts are post game. So
they really?
So you play every second day, right? So if we had a workout today,
Right.
what are you getting out of it?
Right.
Nothing, because
You got to play again 4:30 tomorrow.
First of all, you're playing in 20 or whatever, 30 hours, whatever it is, but you're tired from last night. Right. So what are you getting out of today's lift?
Right.
That's the point. You're preparing tomorrow's game, right?
Got it.
And in the macro picture, on the bigger picture, you're looking at your month, and sometimes you have, like, this month is not bad, and we have 5 workouts.
Okay. The whole
5 team workouts.
Okay.
That's not much.
Right.
But that's a good month. Last month we had 6, that was huge.
Okay.
But if one of those workouts leaves and then our next workout is in 2 weeks, well, then that workout, you better be ready to lower the volume, because you're going to be sore.
Right.
You haven't lifted in 2 weeks.
Right.
You can't have your athlete be sore.
No.
So that's it's a lot of, like you said, a lot of creativity, a lot of listening.
Yeah.
To
But
the athlete.
you really have a kind of a tale of 2 jobs, because in season is one thing, but then off season is a completely different animal.
Right, and I come from a mainly an off season. So what I've done for 30 years, well, almost 30 years, but 10 years was here, 11 years has been here, but 20 years has been doing off season, especially.
Okay.
And some in season for sure, but it's like the bulk of the training for an athlete is in the off season.
Sure.
In terms of the amount of the volume of training. And then in season is all about micro dosing to maintain strength.
Got it.
And power and your speed. But in the summertime, hopefully it's to make gains. So that's where the summertime.
How do you keep the players? Because like you guys just said, they're all different. They all have different needs. They're all human, right? So they're not in season. So guys may have a couple extra beers that they normally wouldn't have, or they're going to eat a little bit. So how do you keep them on that regimen, knowing, hey guys, the good thing for us is we haven't had long off seasons in the last decade, right? I mean,
3 years especially.
3 years especially. Yeah. So maybe not so much in the last 3 years, but how do you, as the director of the high performance, keep them at a high performance level when you can't monitor them as much as you do during the regular season?
Right. No, and you're totally right. And in the off season, I mean, you have to understand, no one is from Tampa.
True.
Right. No one like, okay, you go to Toronto, you go to Montreal. Sure, you have players who are from there, but that's the minority. In Tampa, no one's from here. Everybody is from somewhere else. So most players in the off season, they go back home.
Sure.
Right. They want to see their family. They want to see their friends. So obviously they're going to have beers with their.
It's
I
life.
hope they do.
Right. It's life.
I hope they do psychologically. You need
It's
to.
an important part of the off season.
Right.
Huge part.
You have to unwind that band, because you keep it tight for too long.
Right. It's going to snap.
It's not going to be good.
Well, you got to remember, as I said, the average player's lost 7 pounds over the past 10 years, let's say. But the speed has increased so much. Players know if they let themselves go in the summertime a little bit, their job's on the line. So, yeah, they'll have a lot of they'll have some fun with their friends, but they know.
Don't overindulge. Don't
They,
overdo it.
look,
The
at
guys
the end of the
gotten
day,
there for a reason. You
Right,
know,
right.
they've made a lot of
Exactly.
sacrifices, so it's not like you make the NHL and then you're just like,
it's
you
over.
just let it go. You know, these guys are conditioned to,
Right.
you know, be high performing athletes, and it's so important that, you know, let's take a look at like Stammer.
Okay.
So, you know, the last couple of years Stammer's had, they've been really, really good seasons.
For sure.
You know, I think we can all agree on that.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I think Stammer's talked about it and other people have talked about it is, you know, his off seasons have looked really different. He's either been rehabbing from injuries, and the fact that he's the last couple of years have had off seasons where he was able to train and really kind of start making growth and not just like rehabbing.
Right.
You know, I can't like state enough how important that is for a player to just be ready to go, be ready to build yourself up, to kind of break yourself down slowly during the season. Am I right? Mark?
No, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Stammer because I don't know if you guys remember when he broke his tibia. I forget the year it was. His vertical jump. So one thing that's really important is your skating speed is very, very correlated with your vertical jump.
Okay.
You jump high, you skate fast. I mean, that's rule of thumb. Okay. His vertical jump before breaking his leg was 35 inches, which is
pretty good.
Which is a very good vertical
huge,
jump. At the time, it was our highest. So I believe it was 1 year or maybe 2 years later. I'd have to look at my data, but
Sure.
at the testing. But a year later, let's call it a year later at testing, his vertical jump was 37.
So he's improving.
Well, he improved at that time. Yeah, absolutely. So it just tells you what the rehab involved and what the training involved, and the mindset too. Obviously, you know,
Shattering your knee. That's
exactly. And he still jumps a 30, even after what he's been through. He still jumps a 34, 35.
That's remarkable.
So
for as long as
He's
keeping
got so
the-
much power, and that's that's what makes him so special, right?
right.
So, Mark, off season, in season, but there's like more components to kind of what you do, and the one thing I wanted to kind of touch on with you a little bit and ask you about is the scouting component. And I know you've gone to the NHL Combine where the prospects, before they're being drafted, all the kids come and they do a workout that's kind of pre-designed. The NHL sets it up, and you've gone quite a few years, and I think you still do. And you look at athletes, and can you tell me, like, when you're watching these young kids, you know, and I remember back to my first NHL Combine, you know, it's skinny, white, you know, like not very, just kind of, I wasn't very developed at that time, and kind of, but you know, that was, all my peers were very similar. What are you looking for in young kids at the Combine? Like, what do they ask you about when you come back from that? Is there certain things that flag you right away or indicators?
Right. That's a good question because so I have a gym back in Montreal, and we train guys from every age, really, and a lot of these guys are going to the Combine.
Okay.
And they're all nervous, which is understandable.
course.
Yeah.
Very understandable.
Oh yeah. You're sitting there in a tank top,
Right.
working out for a bunch of men,
Right.
watching you
Just
like
every move,
you know,
like
you're on
taking
the
notes.
bike, you're pushing weight, and
You're being judged.
intense.
you're being judged. Yeah,
You're being judged.
Yeah, it's,
You're 18 years old.
you're in the circus.
Put yourself in this situation. You're 18 years old. You're still a kid.
You are.
You're a lot's going on in your body and your mind, and then you're on stage basically, and you're in a tank top in front of 200 grown men,
Right.
who are judging you.
Right.
Right. Just that.
That mental
Just
alone
that is okay. So a lot of people think, oh my God, I need to be an animal. I need, your question is perfect. And hopefully young hockey players are watching this. What we're doing, we're assessing potential. It's not about, being a man, a 25, 27-year-old man right there. We know you're not.
Right.
We know you're not. What I want to know is what can you become when you're 27? Is there a good answer to that? No. But I'm looking for either red flags or indicators, basically, of what I can do with this athlete. All right. So,
like, if for an example, what you said red flag, like, is it posture? Is it, does he look like he's like off? Like, is it, what are the red flags, so to speak, that you would be noticing looking at that 18-year-old? What are you looking for?
So first of all, going back to scouting, the scouting's already done.
Right.
There's 120 kids at that combine.
They've been watching them for years. They know what they're doing on ice.
Right.
They've done
well before.
interviews, meet the kid one-on-one, personality, that kind of thing.
All that's done.
That's done.
All that's done. When we get to the combine, it's the end
Okay.
of the I guess the meeting
Process,
because it's
like
a week
the draft
long, right?
evaluation. It's the final piece.
But it's a week long,
Right.
And we get there for the last day,
Okay.
and that's testing.
Got it.
All right, perfect. So I get a list. Al Murray, our head scout, gives me a list. These are the players I want you to take a look at. So the job's done, like the hockey job and the personality job, for the most part, is done already. So I know that most of these guys that I'm looking at are already good hockey players. These 120 guys are good hockey players.
Sure, right.
They're the best in the world at their age group, theoretically.
Right.
So what I look at, I have a few columns, and I just write things. I just write what I see. The red flags can be an injury. I can see, for example, a scar.
Okay.
Well, okay, left shoulder scope or whatever, and I ask. I just ask. What happened? What is this? If I see a big kid who's 6'4", 225, who can only jump 10 inches, that's a red flag. I'm not saying it's the end of it.
Right.
I'm saying it's a red flag. So this is where the conversations happen. It's a conversation starter. Sure. That's what's important.
Got it.
I'll give you an example. There was I forget what year, but there was a big guy. He was 6'4", I think he was 6'3", 215. He could jump. He was strong. The last column in my scouting report is potential for growth, potential for me to develop this athlete.
Gotcha.
He was a 0 out of 5. This was Austin Matthews.
Oh man.
Okay. The reason is, I'm not saying Austin Matthews isn't going to be a good hockey player.
Right.
Not at all, obviously not. But the work I can do for him is so small compared to the work I can do for the kid who's 6'2", 165, who can jump 30 inches. His knees buckle in when he jumps. There's a lot of work to be done on that frame.
You can tell, though, like certain kids, like this kid's been training for a long time. And then other kids, it's probably a good indicator, like, hey, this kid really hasn't tapped into any sort of athletic potential or hasn't trained at all.
He's untrained, totally untrained.
Untrained person.
Untrained. So that's what I write a lot of the time, untrained. And that's usually a green flag.
Well,
Well, if the kid's untrained,
right?
and he's already a good hockey player, that's the point. And the point of what I do in the summertime, because you talked about summertime, isn't to make a meathead out of the kid. This strength training is a tool for an athlete to become better. Right. It's not about, I don't care that he gets good at squatting. Right. I do, but he's not a power lifter.
Right.
He's not an Olympic weightlifter. He's a hockey player. He's an athlete. And how is his strength in the gym? How is his power? How is his jumping ability going to help him on the ice? That's the point. That's the whole point. So that's the kind of things we look for. Mm-hmm. It's about, okay, well, this kid is very, very hairy, so chances are he's done growing. Well, this kid
would never thought of that one.
Well, seriously, that's one of the
You see a 18-year-old kid with a full beard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's why I tell all my kids, shave before every single morning, because you're going to meet people. Right. You want to look as young as possible. Sure. So for the kids out there, that's it's potential. It's not. We don't necessarily want you to be an established athlete here. If you are, there's not much I can do for you, for me on my end.
So do you mind sharing with us a little bit about some of the things that you've seen from our guys that we ended up drafting and memories that you have of them at the combine? Is there certain guys you were like?
The first one that comes to mind, and I bring this up because we talked about this yesterday, and I talked about this with the players during the game last night. There's a big kid. He was 6'3", about 227 pounds, relatively untrained, very untrained actually, fatter. And again, you're 18 years old, you're on the stage, you're being judged by all these people. Mm-hmm. And this kid was walking around, couldn't speak a word of English, was walking around with his 5'2" interpreter, okay? And he was so confident. We're going there. He knew exactly what he was doing. Okay. And that was Andrei Vasilevsky. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Wow. He was impressive, and I wrote it in my report, and I told Al, who is this guy? Yeah. Like he doesn't look like an athlete at this point. Right. And over the next few years, Vasi very well. He's
amazing.
Put in the work.
I mean,
and he's as strong as any guy you're going to see in the gym. Like the things he can do, one-legged squats off a Bosu ball with. It's just there's lots of reasons why Vasi is Andre Vasilevskiy the best goalie in the world. Yeah. But strength is one of those foundational pieces that he has for sure. So when we think Vasi, and when he goes up into the rafters, and we can thank Mark Lambert for bringing him, for writing in the report. For writing in the report. Impressive guy.
Right. Well, it's funny because he was a first round pick, but he was our second pick that year.
Right.
That's right.
That's right. Second shot at him.
Yeah. So no, he was that was impressive. That was really impressive. And if you speak to Mark Powell, who's the strength coach in Syracuse, he'll tell you he was the first one at the rink. He was the last one gone. He got there at 7:30 in the morning, left at 6 every day, and just worked.
And flexibility too, like not just strength. Like Vasi can take, we've all seen him do the splits in the crease. He could take his leg and have a conversation with it, like right here. It's like
it's amazing.
It's just right beside him. But
he's very impressive, and his work ethic is Vasi. Yeah, absolutely. Vasi's Vasi.
Puts in the work, man.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So let's go from one fantastic athlete to another, and I want you to kind of tell us a little bit of the story about Joe Smith, who used to be Lightning beat reporter. He was here for a while. He wanted to do a story on you and the Lightning training, and he wanted to come in and do a workout with us. I think I declined because I was like, I don't want to work out with Joe. Sorry, Joe.
You didn't want him to embarrass you?
Yeah, I didn't want him to embarrass me. But he ended up coming in and doing a workout with you. I wonder if you could share that story.
He did.
What happened there?
That was a few years ago. I don't remember what year. I think it was 19 or so. And yeah, he just wanted to do a workout. So we said, okay. So we did a modified strongman. So we were pushing sleds. We were pulling some sleds, pushing doing some ropes. And I put a heart rate monitor on him. And
he was on the floor or what?
No, you know what? He actually surprised me. He did very well.
He's a runner, I think, Joe.
I've
seen him in other cities when he's covering the team.
I think he bowed out. I thought the story was he bowed out kind of early. He was starting to look a little green, but
but he look, to his credit, he did very well. And
okay, well, you're being very nice.
I did have to tell him to put a shirt on at the end.
There it is. The truth comes out.
This guy has made me puke in the gym more times than I.
Do you feel like that's like a successful moment for you when you see a guy hurling? Like, I've done my job here. I can walk away now.
You know what? A strength coach doesn't make the athlete puke. The athlete makes himself puke.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then you get blamed for it. That's what happens. But yeah, look, hardworking guys, it's normal. Whenever you work hard, especially at intervals, we were just doing that in the gym with a player earlier. He was feeling nauseous. I said, well, you did it well, right?
Well,
you need to
feel
a little bit nauseous.
You have to push yourself.
Right.
It needs to be stimulus.
It's going to be uncomfortable, right?
If
that's the way I always looked at it.
So why do we throw up when that happens? When we've pushed ourselves so much? Like, is it contractual muscles in your stomach? Like, what's happening? Because that's happened to me too.
I think what Wolfie's asking right now is he wants to get in on the program. Right. Like he's feeling like he's maybe a little soft around the middle.
I could lose a few.
We got time. We could turn this podcast into a big.
Now, there is no one answer.
Okay.
Most of the time, what I find is that the player ate too close to the training session.
Okay.
So it happens quite a bit.
What
in
if
the
you
morning.
don't eat and it still happens?
Usually what you're going to puke is bile.
Right. That's rough. I've been there before doing yard work.
Right.
I've been out doing yard work, and I hadn't eaten that morning, and I pushed myself, and I would just hurl. And I'm like, why am I throwing up right now? You know what I mean? Because I obviously
you hurled doing yard work?
Yeah. But I mean, I was out there all day type. Like, I hadn't eaten that morning. I was dehydrated, I'm sure. And then, like, it got to the point I'm like, okay. And I just felt it. And I just was sitting out there dry heaving for about a minute and a half, went back to work. So I've been there before.
I got to tell you. So Mark's saying you went from 160 pounds in college?
Yeah, about 150.
And then, like, you know what? Your strongest, what have you been? Like, how high?
My heaviest, you mean?
Yeah, your heaviest.
220,
Yeah.
220.
So Mark has lived, he's walked the walk. He's lived, kind of by the ethos and what he's wanted to do out there.
Sure.
And he's trained himself to be a very, very powerful man. But what I'm getting at is part of, when I was playing for the Lightning, part of my pregame routine with Mark wasn't just a warm up.
God,
here we go.
Me and Mark used to Greco-Roman style wrestle in the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was something else.
We used to wrestle, and it was
another
like
story.
for me, it was like a good like. All right, now I'm ready to go. You know, got the juices
Like
going for me.
grappling, like you weren't on the floor, like rolling around.
Oh,
like
we locked shoulders. We were
you said, yeah,
we were
we-
going like,
okay.
and Mark's quite a bit shorter than me, so I had to get down low, and he's a super powerful guy. But me and Mark, we would go at it for a couple minutes, just really like sweat would going. A few times
Get your adrenaline
I'd have to
pumping,
make sure
right?
his fingernails were cut.
dude.
Like
scratching them up.
a couple headbutts in there. But it was fun.
Who was it? I don't remember who it was. We just made a trade. And then so pregame, we would do this pregame.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
pregame, for sure.
so he'd finish his warm up and then he'd look at me and say, all right, I'm ready. And then we just started wrestling. But a new player was stretching. He just looked at us like, what am I getting myself into?
Are they mad at each other, or what's going on?
This is just
I don't know who it was. I don't remember who it
one of
was.
our draft.
No, it was an older guy that we got.
in.
Yeah, I think it was Bogo.
Oh, Bobo.
I think it was Bogo.
This is what I
I think
got
it was
myself
Bogo.
into.
What is going on here?
What do you think is the hardest part about your job? Is it being honest with guys? Like, what if there is a hard part about your job? What would that
No, I think the hardest part, and earlier on, it was very tough. It's always tough, but early on, okay, I have my gym.
Sure.
You walk into the door of my gym, you already have a trust in me.
Okay.
Okay, you're there for a reason.
Sure.
Your buddy told you about me. Your agent told you about me. Whatever. You have a certain trust.
Right.
You're here.
Right.
Okay. You're going to pay me actually to train you.
Sure.
So obviously you trust me.
Right.
Here it's the other way around. The player gets here and I'm imposed onto the player.
Okay.
So it's getting that trust.
Sure.
That is, he doesn't trust me. He doesn't know who I am. So that is one of the hardest things I find.
that trust.
Yeah, building that trust and making the player comfortable, believing that what we're going to do is going to work.
Sure.
So
And your relationship's different because, like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you are a coach, but it's your relationship with the players is different than, say, like Coop or
Right.
any of the assistant coaches.
I'm not a coach that way.
right,
But I coach.
You
Like,
are
it's-
you coach,
yeah.
but it's different. So you have a different relationship, which
Yeah.
is I think is kind of one of those things when maybe things aren't going well or things are going well. You can come to a guy like Mark and you can kind of open up in a different way that you'd open up to a normal coach.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
know?
yeah. But you know how it is. Like, there's certain guys who never get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I barely spend time with them. Barely. When you think about it,
interesting.
the only times I see them are post game or whenever we train, which is a few times a month, like I said. So I see them. Obviously, we see them every day.
right.
But you don't get to spend much time. But when a player gets hurt, that's when we spend a lot of time together because we're together 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. When a team goes away, we stay back and we train, we rehab, and we skate together. So there's a lot of time there. So the players who have gotten hurt over the years, unfortunately, I've gotten closer with.
Right.
That brings me to so that made me remember a story with me and Mark. My season was going well. Something happened in one of the games. I ended up hurting my knee. I knew I was going to be out for a month. I was
right off.
I was bummed. I knew they're like, hey, it's going to be about a month. You got this knee injury. The team was leaving on the road. They were going to Nashville. And Mark calls me and is like, hey, you want to watch the game together? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Well, where do you want to meet? And Mark goes, let's meet at Green Lemon. So we go to Green Lemon.
Here we go.
I show up and Mark's got a bowl. What is it? It's a bowl, right?
Margarita.
It's a bowl of margarita.
Like a fishbowl
A
size.
fishbowl,
Yeah, of
fishbowl size of
margarita.
margarita. He's got one, I got one. So, I'm like, great, game on. So,
Hey, one of my mentors told me, you got to work hard under the bar.
For sure.
And you got to work hard at the bar.
Wolfie, so by the end of that game,
Yeah.
Mark's tolerance is a lot better than mine, but I think you carried me home. I was
Okay.
that might have been the sickest I've ever been.
Oh, really? So like y'all went in.
I was drunk under the table. Like he just like
So Mark can. So the conditioning.
his
he
margarita
trains-
his margarita training skills were just far superior to mine.
I do well with lemonade.
All right, so I want to have a little bit of fun here, Mark, because I saw this article on muscle and strength, and it's the top 10 classic stereotypes that you see in every gym. So this is just for fun. Okay, we're not like saying this is like taken to be like serious here. We just want to know from Mark's perspective, which one of our players you would fill into this category of a gym stereotype. Oh boy. First up is the coach. You don't have to look for these individuals in the gym. They will find you. 1 minute you're working out, the next you have somebody giving you a lesson on the finer points of feeling the muscles work on that curl. Who in our team would be considered the coach?
Oh, wow. Ian Cole.
Ian,
for
really?
sure. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The howler. Never any doubt when this person's working out, because as you walk through the doors, the grunts of the gym always be heard before you even see them.
I know this one already.
Who is the howler of the team?
There are actually a few.
Okay. Hit us with the couple.
Killer's a good one.
Killer.
Who did you have in mind?
I'd Killer, yeah.
You had Killer?
Right off
Yeah,
the rip.
yeah,
Who else you
yeah.
have? Who's the howler besides Killer?
You know what? Pointer's actually not bad.
Really?
Yeah, well, Pointer lifts very heavy. So,
He's a stocky dude. Like,
And Cherney, too. Cherney, some of the...
Cherney, yeah.
some
Oh,
of the
actually, you know
sounds
what? I
coming out
forgot
of
Cherney. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
okay, the tornado, which is if you've been in a gym long enough, you have no doubt seen the person that's surrounded by 10 different pairs of dumbbells, various weight plates. They're just thrown and skewed about the gym. Who would be the tornado?
Jeff Halpern, sorry.
Albie.
or Franz John.
Oh,
Okay, so the coaching staff. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The model. Who's the one who's looking more about themselves in the mirror than actually doing the work?
You have to wear your shirt in the gym rule, I think, right?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
still
yeah.
in place?
Well, yeah. It used to be Yanni Gord.
Yeah.
For sure, because he
Okay.
never had a shirt on.
Sure.
But Vasi's pretty good.
Vasi, okay,
I
fair
got a
enough.
few pictures of Vasi I should show you.
Who is the gymnast who would be at like a pull-up bar and in the middle doing some sort of crazy pull-up or other crazy variation of exercises?
Actually, Vasi. Vasi would definitely be the one.
Okay, how about the ninja? This would be the individual that you may see shadow boxing in the mirrors or doing other things, fights imaginary opponents. Who would be considered the ninja?
Ninja. Wow, that's a good one. I don't know about that. The ninja.
Yeah, somebody who just looks like, they're like, sparring with themselves or just,
Oh man, I don't think we have one of those.
I've seen Coop work out. I think maybe Coop's got
He was
a little
first.
ninja.
He was my first thought, but
you got to go with the gut instinct. So.
yeah. Well, we'll go to Coop then.
All right,
Coop.
Coop.
Yeah.
The soloist, who's the guy with the headphones on, just in their own zone, and they may even be singing their music while they're working out.
Oh, geez, that's Franz Jean for sure.
Just-
He sings in the gym every morning. He's got his earphones on, and he always sings Phil Collins. Or he's in the air tonight.
Yes,
Oh,
okay.
I'm not going to
Keep
do
going.
it.
Keep going.
The wanderer. This is the person who's just aimlessly walking around the gym, just stopping at machines to maybe look at some stuff and just kind of wandering around.
I got this. I don't.
Oh, that could be
Hagel.
Hagel. That could be
okay.
Hagel. Who do you
Oh,
have?
I had Big Rig. Big Rig was like...
Big Rig? Oh, you know what?
He's a socializer, like...
Oh, he is sure, but no, he's doing well.
Is he?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The wanderer, the gear aficionado. Obviously, we know who that is. The person who has to look the part, like they're at the gym, geared up. Maybe they have gloves on, sleeves, wristbands, headbands. Like, who would be the gear aficionado on the team?
The gear aficionado. Oh man. Well, who did you have in mind? Because you said we know who that is.
It's tough because everyone gets like team issued stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
you
but
know?
who would be like the one that's just like taking it to the next level? Like they'd have a headband on, or maybe wristbands or gloves because they're really into the workout. None of them.
I can't think of anyone right now.
I thought maybe Killer would fit into that because he's an influencer type. So maybe
Yeah.
we'd have like specific.
Yeah, no,
not so much?
No, I won't
I,
give
I
him
would
that.
I would love to throw him under the bus for that, but
All right, so we don't have really a gear aficionado on the
so,
team,
no.
but again, we're a pro team, so I can understand that.
Right.
And lastly is the mixologist, which is really just somebody who is consistently drenched, sweat, just gross. There's a puddle everywhere they go. Who is the
that was Luke
mixologist?
Shen for sure.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Just
Fortunately, he's
super
not here anymore. But oh man, he's a leaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mop on aisle 3,
yeah.
in front of that bike. It was. You
That's
kind of
gross.
looked around at all the bikes, and you kind of always tell like where was Shenner. You
Yeah.
know, he was on that one.
Oh, yeah.
because it was
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing was rusting. Like there was so much
Already?
salt, sweat on there. Oh, it's gross.
Disgusting.
But-
Mark, Lambert, listen, we appreciate you being on here. Before we wrap it up, and we appreciate you being on the block party. You've been here a long time. You've been here 12 seasons, which is remarkable. What would be your crowning jewel moment in your career up to this point?
I took this job to win the Stanley Cup. That's the reason I took the job.
Sure.
So winning 2 was obviously awesome. But honestly, I'd want to win 5. I have a number in mind.
Okay.
And that's and honestly, with the ones that we didn't win,
Sure.
some of them still sting.
Yeah, a little bit.
So let's just keep going and
Yeah.
win some more. I don't want to go back to the early years where my first 2 years we didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
That was
Awful.
That was awful. It was the first time in my life I didn't make the playoffs.
Sure.
So, that was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough. That was so I want to go back to.
I think we'll get you there, man. I feel confident.
I hope you do.
I know. I'm doing my part.
Here's to 3 more.
Exactly.
Anyways, ladies and gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Mark Lambert, the director of high performance and strength coach for our Tampa Bay Lightning, joining us here on the Bolts Block Party. We appreciate you taking the time. We know the guys are out there practicing, so we know you're a busy man, so we appreciate you taking the time today with Kobe.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, Mark, thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. Anytime.